I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom, and I want to welcome you to my studio in all its basement glory. Hey, thanks for coming here to the site. I really want to educate you today that it takes less than you think to set up what is the equivalent of a very professionalized studio for the digital age. I think it's important that you all get over your fears that this is a very expensive endeavor and that it's something that you can't do. I am literally standing in a tiny room. I would tell you it's probably about 10 by 10. It is located in the basement of a building that I own where I used to have my real estate agency up there. But then with the digital age and all the independent contractor work, we are down to just little depots throughout the areas that we cover. But it turns out that this is the most important room so that I can continue to broadcast. So what I'm going to do is walk you through all of the details, all the way from video production to podcast production, and you are going to see how simple the setup is. Now, is it free? No, of course it's not. It does require some information that will lead you to purchases that'll fit a budget. You can really get inexpensive items, whether it be camera, lighting, etc. And some of my stuff I've had for quite some time and I just don't have a need to replace it, but I'll show you in this episode or this video when you're watching this what the alternatives are, okay? So here we go. Let's take a look at some of the details. All right, so first of all, you see that this really is a basement door, right? This is literally the basement that we came into here. And then coming in this way, this is the little small room. As you can see, storage room over there. And then over here we have literally still some storage and some things that we keep here for materials. But you can see where I've set up the green screen in the back, and that's probably the most important thing to point out first of all, is that when you orient your room wherever you're going to do your production, it's important to have a good desk or somewhere, and I always call it the aesthetic. What is your setup going to be? Now this room, as time goes on, will probably develop into several looks or scenes. But the easiest thing for me, because I owned a green screen already, is that I just put the green screen behind me so that I can change the backgrounds. And that allows me to do a lot more fancy footwork when it comes to all the digital remastering that my team puts together for me. And by the way, that sounds glamorous and expensive too. It's not. I met a lot of my team on Upwork.com, formerly Elance.com, some on Fiverr, Fiverr.com. Don't worry, I'll put all the links in the foot of this video as well, so that you can take a look at it. This room here used to be an old mortgage room for our original business, so there was a shelving left behind. The only thing that's important to me over there is that printer, so that when I have my scripts to print out, I'm going to work from that. So printer, desk, green screen, those are some things, and a chair, obviously, that completes the aesthetic that help me really get myself prepared to really formulate the content, because I do it right here off of formulas, and you'll see where those are sitting over in the desk in a second here. But let me back out a little bit. Number one, lighting. Lighting is everything. This is a Cowboy Studio system that I bought. These are photography grade lamps inside there. It's covered up with what's called a diffuser, so that makes the light more even, and you can see in them, the olden days before LEDs, there's just a bunch of switches, so I can change which bulbs are on and off to get the lighting right. Now remember, being down in the basement, you have to really get this lighting correct, or it can be much too dark. You'll notice that there are fluorescents in the ceiling. During production, I will turn those off because they won't give me the effect that I want. This is really what's called the key light, and you'll see when I'll get behind it here, you can see that this light is going to shine pretty much right into my eyes, if I can get that correctly, so that there's some color in my eyes, the best of my ability. I don't obsess over this, but this is what's called a key light, so it's a little bit off to one side of my face, but more so in line with my eyesight. When it comes to the desk, this is where I keep everything, and this is also going to include a little bonus here about live broadcasts. As a coach, I always have the need for better sound as well as lighting, but I want to finish the lighting first. In the back of the room, This really is for the elimination of shadows, especially off the back of your head. You want something coming down on your shoulders or the back of your head so it delineates you from the background, especially a green screen. That's really an important light back there. Now for me, in this small room, I needed some of these other fluorescent lights, and again, same thing, these are switch oriented at the back. If you can see that, they're a little bit tough with the lighting here, but there's a little switch there in the back that I can turn on and off, and then there's another one here. I will bounce those lights off of the ceiling to get a little bit more light in this room without overlighting it, because it turns out that I think the DSLR that I'm shooting from here, and I'll have another camera, I'll use my iPhone to show you what this looks like when it's all set up. But this DSLR has an auto adjustment to the lighting, does a pretty decent job, but it still needs enough light to work with. So there's your lighting kit, really. You want to make sure that you have this key light, number one, the shadow light off your shoulders and off the back of your head, and then some other additional lighting to make sure you get the lighting in the room correct. And there's just so many options. These days, I would highly recommend, versus these box lights, that you look into some low-cost dimmable LED light packs. They'll come on a stand like this too that's adjustable. You definitely want an adjustable stand, but instead of this big old photography box that's just a bunch of LEDs. I am a fan of the diffuser though too. If you can find an LED equivalent of the box lights, then you want to get that with the diffuser on the front, all right? That's important, and that'll really help you adjust the lighting so that no matter what room, and it's mobile too, so you can take it with you, and I think that's important. All right, let's get a view from the inside here. So, as we come into this section here, these are all the types of materials that you'll need for live broadcast especially, but also you see these two tiny tabletop tripods. Those are just the best invention since sliced bread, really. They're the greatest, and you'll notice on the front of this one, and I have a close-up of these as well that will play here too, but that's a phone bracket so that you can hold your phone and you can record right from your phone. You do not, he said, you do not need a DSLR. Obviously, the better the camera equipment, the better the lens, the better the quality of the film, but phones are so efficient these days if you can get that lighting down correctly. And now I'm seeing a lot of wireless microphones. Those are really important to use as well, and I'll show mine here as well. So let's go on to sound. We talked about this. I'll show these a little bit close up, but there's a shotgun microphone, and the one I'm using is wireless. You noticed it in the intro that I didn't have any kind of microphone, and I wasn't using that shotgun because if I can defer to a lapel microphone like I'm using now, the sound is always going to be better, and it's wireless. So there's something called, I'll show you at the bottom of this one, there's something called a shoe mount. When you see that, that slides into the top of a camera, and then it plugs in to the external mic. And so the sound would come off of that. That's really a great microphone for outdoor, if you want to shoot something outdoors, but always a lapel mic right off your chest is going to give you the best quality sound. When it comes to a live broadcast for coaching, this is a USB microphone. I'll get a little close up of that too here, but that's the Yeti microphone, super microphone. Also the ATR 2100, I hear that recommended by a lot of people. That's a winner as well. So again, sound and lighting. I start with the lighting and the sound. Those are the 1-2 punch when it comes to good audio and video. Really important, right? Over here is my podcast setup. So when I decided to start podcasting several years ago, especially for the Realty Classroom, I went out and I bought myself what's called a Heil PR40 setup. This is, I guess, as close to quote-unquote professional grade as you can get without going into real professional grade. So this bracket here clamps onto the side of any simple desk or table, and it holds the PR40 in place. Also below that, I decided to go with a Zoom recorder. So the Zoom recorder allows for XLR plugs to come into the side. It can also plug into the laptop. I use a Mac. I'm a MacBook Pro guy, so I use that. If you are going to do any interviews and you want the best quality sound for yourself, you're going to use something like this setup, and you would need something to plug an XLR into and then subsequently into this. But again, you can use use good USB microphones for this sort of thing. So I'll go back to the Yeti. This is a dynamic microphone to the extent that you talk right into the front of this. That you talk right into the top of it, right? It just gives you super quality sound. And there are less expensive alternatives, and I'll try to come up with some. I also want to mention wardrobe, right? So you want to think about the aesthetic that you're going to use. There's my coat and tie and a white shirt. That's the aesthetic I use when I'm doing market updates for my brokerage, and I'm about to do one today after this video as well. All right, so let me get you a look from the other side when this is all set up in the tripod and what it looks like when I'm actually recording, including having a script there. Okay, so here we are on the other side of the camera. This is actually the view that I have right now as I sit down and I look back at all my camera equipment, and you will notice my podcast flow, which is typically, I also do my videos in at the same time I do my podcast. So in other words, it starts as a podcast framework, so that's a voice driven system, obviously. But in addition to that, I'm recording. As you can see up there on the DSLR, I'd be recording the podcast as well. So you'd probably typically see me with this in front of me as well, with these this headset on. And by the way, if you're ever wondering what that headset is, it drove me crazy for years. You can actually hear the sound of your own voice, so you know whether or not you need to turn the volume up or not. And it's very helpful, especially if you're interviewing people. So this might be right in front of me while I'm recording. Or if I'm going straight to camera, for example, when I just do our market updates for the brokerage, this is all that I'm going to see in front of me. And again, there's that key light off to the side that's going to be typically, I might rearrange that. I think I moved it around for this video, but you'd see that right in front of me to light my face up. And there I am, as you can see in the display. And I put that facing me so I just know whether I'm sitting correctly. If I'm in the middle of the frame, I need to make any adjustments. Now, what you're noticing over there as well, try to tilt this just a wee bit more so you see it. Up the top there is the shoe-mounted wireless microphone. So that's the Rode wireless microphone, which is picking up my voice from the lapel microphone that's in my pocket. So on the other side of this, that's what you'd be seeing. So you have this whole setup right in front of you, and it really becomes quite easy. Now, if I just tilt to the side here and I were broadcasting live at the same time, if I really wanted to get out there, I'd have these two USBs plugged in. Again, that's a Logitech, that's the Brio level Logitech webcam. And then we have over there, like I said, we have the Yeti microphone. So those two would be plugged in by a USB. So there's the setup from this side, pretty simple. And now I just let it roll. I will give you one tip here. You're probably asking yourself, well, why don't you use a teleprompter? Look, I've done TV, and I think teleprompters are great, but they're difficult. So let me just, I'm going to flip this camera around and give you some tips, and then we'll call it a day. All right, well, now that you've seen the studio, you're all set up, you get yourself something like this, and again, it can be anywhere from your phone in a bracket pointed towards you. Again, I always recommend good lighting and good sound. Anytime you can get a wireless mic like the one I'm wearing right here, you can see that there. The pack is in my pocket. You saw it on the top of the camera. That's where that is. Now that's a little bit more complicated and sophisticated of a setup. You can get, I'm seeing them now online advertised, something that plugs into your smartphone. It clips right on, right here where this is as well. Technology is really advancing where you can get the best quality sound and the best quality video for really cheap prices. So you want to do the best that you can. Most of you own a smartphone, so it's just you're following up on some LED lighting and a wireless microphone. Probably the two best pieces. But when it comes to content, be organized, right? I'm organized. I'm following a formula. I'm not trying to be a pro. Look, I've done TV before, did 8 episodes with A&E. I know what it's like to be in front of everybody. And reality TV, the way that they pull it off with normal people is that they'll feed them a line and they'll have that line spit back until it becomes real. And that's what the consumer wants from you. They want real. They want authentic. So if you're trying to be perfect with memorized scripts and you're trying to be perfect with teleprompters and reading them, you're going to come off exactly the opposite. The stuff in front of me, most of it, unless it's an intro and a call to action, I'm using it as a beat. Something that I know the subject, I know what I want to talk about, and I'll glance down. You can look at any of my videos, I'll glance down, and that's acceptable. I don't care how good somebody gets. They're never perfect. We're not trying to be the next great actor or actress. We're trying to get information that's helpful to the consumer buyer and consumer seller. Remember that when you're doing content. Get out there and get going. Give people your best stuff for free on video, and you'll be shocked at how quickly you magnetize back. But do it frequently, at least once a week is what I recommend, and you'll be shocked at how wonderful it is. I'll be back in around with all sorts of tips, so make sure you keep following with the TRC podcast or any of the product that we'll develop from this. We might go further into a mini coaching program on how to really content create and put it out there, but hopefully you found this video helpful and insightful.